I get it, when you're a small to medium business or a power user IT team, you've probably stared at a rack full of shiny NAS units and expansion boxes on a vendor page, imagined a seamless, just plug it in and go upgrade, and then ended up with a device that sits half-filled, hogs power, or forces you to reshuffle your whole storage layout. That hesitation is real, and the cost of picking the wrong expansion unit isn't just a few dollars. It can mean downtime, wasted rack space, and a whole lot of, "Why didn't anyone warn me?" moments. That's why today I'm breaking down the Synology 12-bay rack mount expansion, RxD 1219 SAS, and trying to give you a clear picture of when it actually pays off and when you might be better off looking elsewhere. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's set the scene. The RxD 1219 SAS is a diskless expansion chassis that slots right into a Synology rack ecosystem. It adds 12 more SAS bays to an existing Synology storage server, so you're basically buying extra shelves for your drives without buying a brand new NAS box. The big draw is the promise of plug-and-play. You pop the unit onto the rack, connect the Mini-sas HD cable to your main Synology server, and the system sees the new bays as part of the same storage pool. In theory, that's perfect for anyone who's outgrown the drive count on a DS1621 Plus or a FS6400 and doesn't want to rebuild their whole storage architecture. Who should actually consider this unit? If you already run a Synology rack model that supports expansion, think the FS series or the newer RS series, then the RxD 1219 SAS slots right in without any firmware gymnastics. It's a natural fit for IT admins who need to scale capacity quickly, especially in environments where data growth is predictable, like video production houses, surveillance setups, or a growing SaaS service that stores large log files. The redundant power supplies are a real comfort here. You can keep the unit running even if one PSU fails, which means no sudden loss of access to the newly added drives. For those with a modest budget but a clear plan to add drives over the next few years, buying the chassis empty, diskless, and loading it with your own drives can be more cost-effective than purchasing a larger, all-in-one NAS. On the flip side, if you're a home user or a small office that only needs a handful of extra drives, the 12-bay size is probably overkill. The rack footprint alone takes up a full unit of space, and you'll need to have a compatible Synology rack server already installed. Also, because the chassis is diskless, you have to source your own SAS drives, and SAS drives are generally pricier than SATA. If you were hoping for a simple just buy this and you're done solution, you'll quickly find yourself budgeting for both the expansion unit and the drives you plan to fill it with. That extra cost can erode the appeal of the upgrade without replacement promise. Now, let's talk practical strengths. The most immediate benefit is the sheer volume of extra bays. 12 more SAS slots mean you can jump from, say, 24 drives to 36 without reshuffling the whole rack. That can be a lifesaver when a video post-production house suddenly lands a new client and needs to ingest terabytes of raw footage overnight. Because the unit uses Mini-sas HD connectivity, the data path is fast enough to keep up with high throughput workloads. You won't notice a bottleneck just because you added another 12 drives. The redundant power supplies, as mentioned, give you an extra layer of reliability. In a data center environment where uptime is measured in minutes, that redundancy can prevent a single point of failure from turning a routine expansion into a service outage. The weaknesses are a bit more nuanced. First, the plug-and-play experience is contingent on the main Synology server's firmware being up to date and its expansion ports being configured correctly. In a few reports, admins have run into hiccups where the new bays don't show up immediately and require a quick restart of the host server. That's not a huge technical hurdle, but it does mean you need to schedule a brief maintenance window, which can be inconvenient if you're in a 24/7 operation. Second, heat management can become a concern when you load the chassis with high-performance SAS drives. The unit itself has built-in fans, but because it's a dense 12-bay design, you'll want to monitor temperature spikes, especially if your rack's ambient cooling isn't top tier. I've seen a couple of IT teams install an additional fan module in the rack's front to keep the intake air cool, which adds a small but real extra cost and a bit of planning. Another point that often gets glossed over is the licensing model on Synology's DSM, Disk Station Manager. When you add a large number of drives, the storage pool expands, but you also need to make sure you have enough DSM licenses for the extra volume groups you intend to create. If you're planning on